your proposition is not yet a buying case. You can have a proven proposition, strong references, happy customers, a credible technology or service, and a business that already works well in the UK, and still not have a buying case for Switzerland. That sounds contradictory, but only if we look at market entry from the seller's side. From the seller's side, the evidence may look compelling. We know our market, we know our customers, we know our proposition works, we have references, we know what we are capable of. So the obvious next question seems to be, how do we sell this in Switzerland? I would start one step earlier, not with the seller, but with the buyer. Imagine an established UK B2B provider entering a conversation with a potential Swiss customer. The provider may be able to explain its technology, its methodology, its expertise, its case studies, and its results. All of that matters, but the buyer still has a different problem. The buyer has to decide, what exactly are we being asked to buy? Not what is this company good at, not what technology does it have, and not even has this worked somewhere else. The buyer first has to recognize the actual service situation. What service do we need? And then what exactly would this provider contribute to it? Because the Swiss buyer is rarely buying your capability in isolation. Your technology, expertise, data, methodology, or people have to contribute to something that already exists inside the customer's organization. A maintenance flow, a quality process, a customer operation, a clinical pathway, a decision process, or another service the buyer is already responsible for delivering. So the question is not only, can we deliver what we do? It is also, where does our contribution enter the buyer's service flow, and what must become possible because of it? That changes the market entry questions. Who actually needs this service? Who will consume or use it? Who pays for it? Who selects it? Who has to legitimize the purchase? What service flow already exists inside the customer? Where does the provider's contribution enter that flow? What does that contribution have to enable or change? What has to be integrated? What beneficial effect is expected? What evidence makes that credible? And where does the provider's delivery responsibility begin and end? That is a very different question from simply asking whether there is market demands. Consider a simple example. A UK technology company may say, we improve maintenance performance with predictive analytics. That may be a strong proposition. It may even be completely true. But predictive analytics does not enter the Swiss organization in a vacuum. It has to contribute to an existing maintenance service flow. So the buyer has to understand what exactly is being provided. Software access, data integration, continuous monitoring, predictive alerts, expert interpretation, recommended interventions, operational support. And then comes the more important question, where does that contribution enter the maintenance flow? Does it inform a planner, trigger an inspection, change a maintenance decision, prioritize an intervention, or support somebody else's service responsibility? Only then can the buyer determine what has to be integrated, what dependencies exist, what proof is required, and what responsibility the UK provider can credibly carry. That distinction matters. Predictive analytics is a capability. It may enable an important contribution, but neither the technology nor the contribution automatically tells us what the entire service is. And it does not automatically tell us whether the UK provider owns the total service or contributes into a service flow that the buyer already controls. That distinction comes later in this series. For now, the important point is simpler. The buyer does not buy your capability in isolation. Your capability has to make a credible contribution to a real service situation. Until those questions become sufficiently clear, the provider may have valuable capability. But the buyer still cannot clearly see what to commission, how it enters the existing service flow, what it must help achieve, or what the provider can credibly be held responsible for delivering. And that is the distinction I mean by service buyability. A proposition tells the market what you are capable of. A buying case has to make something more concrete visible to a specific buyer. What service is actually required? What contribution you will make to the buyer's service flow? What beneficial effect that contribution must help produce? What has to be integrated? What proof reduces uncertainty? And where your delivery responsibility begins and ends. Capability matters, but capability only becomes commercially relevant when the buyer can place it inside a real service situation. And this is why entering a new market is not simply a question of transferring a proposition geographically. Your proposition may travel. The buying case has to be tested from the buyer's side. For Switzerland, that gives us a very useful question before larger commitments are made. Is there a real Swiss buyer need in which our capability can take a clear, credible, and commissionable role? If yes, go. If parts of the service, proof, or delivery boundary still need adjustment, adapt. And if the buyer cannot yet see a credible case, no go. That is useful information before committing more sales capacity, partnerships, local infrastructure, or fixed cost. So the first question in this series is also the defining one. What is the buyer actually being asked to buy? And here is the self-check. If a Swiss buyer removed your company name, technology, and marketing language from the conversation, could they still explain what service they need, where your contribution enters their service flow, what it must help achieve, and what they would actually be commissioning from you? If not, the proposition may be proven. The buying case may not be there yet.